Sunset versus sunrise. Which one's better? I mean, coffee's better in the morning, isn't it? Morning YouTubers, Michael Scott, Scotty Man Photo. Thought I'd talk a little bit about sunrise versus sunset and which one's better. So I think really and truly it comes down to personal preference. It's up to you to decide which one's better. But, and I think that maybe conditions are better in one than the other, but your personal preferences, you're just not a morning person, so you're not going to go out, you're not going to take photographs in the morning, you're not going to be at your best, you're not going to be at on your A game. So, you know, that's probably not the time for you to photograph. Maybe sunset's more of your thing, but it really comes down to, you know, personal preference. And I think creativity and a lot of other things go into that. So if you're going to be better at one than the other, then I would suggest sticking with that. But honestly, I'm going to make a pitch for sunrise, and I'm going to tell you why. Why I think sunrise kind of trumps sunset, or at least in my opinion. So how we start our day is a big part of the entire day and what that day is going to look like. There's a lot of benefits to getting up early, and I think getting something done in the morning is pretty important because it helps lower stress, and it kind of starts that day off with a relaxing moment. And so, and truly a lot of us work and do other things in the morning, and you can actually get out in many cases and early and capture an image and make it back to work or make it back to the office or make it back home and still have the entire day to do other things. So there's lots of reasons to get up early, despite not wanting to get up early. But, and I think it's, you just got to push yourself a little bit. Another reason I prefer mornings is there's just cooler light in the mornings. There's more vivid colors in the morning. I think there's nothing that beats a kind of a cool morning with a spectacular sunrise, maybe a fog or a misty morning. And fog and mist is certainly more prevalent in the mornings than in the evenings as well. And that's another reason. There are just more conditions that are available to you in the morning versus in the evening. It doesn't mean that you can't capture a great sunset image. I mean, there's plenty to be had out there. You certainly don't have to get up in the morning to be a photographer and capture beautiful images. But, and I'm just saying that in my personal preference, I enjoy the blue hour in the morning, the cooler lights. And for me, that's what it's all about. A major concern for sunsets for me is the haze that's in the sky in the sunsets. And you know, when the sun goes down, and there's kind of this healing process, kind of like when we sleep. And there's a healing process that takes place in that when the sun goes down, the conditions kind of change. The temperatures cool off, the particles tend to settle down, and the haze tends to go away and not be present in the morning, at least not as much as in the evenings. And that's one of the reasons that I really try to avoid, well, I don't try to avoid sunsets, but I try to move towards the sunrise because you just have better color and less haze in the morning. Another great thing about sunrise photography in the summer, and I like the summer, and I talk to a lot of photographers, they're not crazy about the summer. They prefer the fall months, they prefer spring. I like summer. I like warmer climates. I like misty, foggy mountaintops. And, you know, I often say I'm an all-season photographer. But one of the things about summer is it's cooler in the mornings. In the evening time, you know, you still got heat radiating off the surfaces, and it's just a hotter climate. So you're dealing with a haze and other issues, but in the morning, it's just cooler out. And that makes for a more pleasant experience overall, just more pleasant in capturing the image and in addition to better skies. And as I mentioned earlier, fog and mist. I like these elements in a photograph, and I think that you're definitely more likely to encounter a good fog, a misty morning, especially around water and lakes, and I like to shoot around water. So that mist rising off the water in those cool summer mornings is always an attractive element for me. One of the things that's overlooked, and that's that connection with nature that we have. And yes, you can have that connection with nature in the evenings, but you're going to have that connection with a lot of people. And most of the time, that's the case. And I can remember going out for a sunset while I was visiting Key West, Florida. And if you've ever done this, you know everybody lines up for a sunset in Key West. So you're going to share that sunset with everyone. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that you kind of missed, as a landscape photographer, you miss that connection with nature. And I think that's what's important, is having that one-on-one moment with nature. And you're certainly more likely to have that in the morning as opposed to the evening. While shooting in the morning doesn't always guarantee there are not going to be any people around. I mean, there's occasionally, especially when you're in national parks or areas that are, really popular. I remember visiting Whitaker Point and just trying to capture a fall image in the morning without any people on the Hawksbill Crag was really hard to do. And in the evening, it's just impossible. It's just completely inundated with people. So there are benefits to shooting in the morning in that there's not so many people out and about. And so if you're really looking for that one-on-one connection with nature, yeah, morning's going to be your better opportunity. And if you're certainly looking to eliminate distractions in your image and you just really want that pure nature shot, void of people, morning is certainly the best time to do that. And I know there's methods to kind of eliminate people and long exposures, but maybe getting up a little bit early, it's not necessarily a bad thing. And I realize too that, like the Hawksbill Crag there, that's a couple mile hike out. So, typically I'm not doing that in the morning. Instead, I'll go down and pitch up a tent and I'll spend the night. And I'll get up early in the morning and capture that image. So, yeah, there's a lot that we do for those images. And certainly the morning images, yeah, you're doing a little bit more, but it's worth it in my opinion. Well, the last thing I'll mention is kind of trivial, but super important, and that's parking. And evening parking is it's not as good as morning, and I think that goes without saying. Rather than getting to a location later in the evening and fighting with the crowds to get a parking spot, getting up a little early and getting out there for some morning photography might be better. In that the early bird gets the worm, and the early photographer gets the parking spot. So parking's important. You can't take a picture if you can't park. So. Anyway, just another reason for some early morning photography. Well, in summary, I would say this. I think it really comes down to personal preference, as I mentioned earlier. It's up to you which one you prefer. And if you're not a morning person and you're not going to get up and capture those sunrises, then so be it. Be an evening photographer, an afternoon photographer, whatever photographer you are. There's really no right or wrong answer. Personally, for me, I prefer the mornings. I prefer the mornings because the cool skies, the color temperatures, the more vivid colors, less haze. I prefer opportunities for mist and foggy mornings, certainly around the water. And those are just a few of the reasons. And I think one of the most important reasons, and I didn't mention this earlier, but I mentioned your connection with nature, and that's super important. And you're certainly likely to have more of a connection with nature, more of a one-on-one experience, I would say, in a morning scene rather than an evening scene. And I think it's all about the experience, and that's above all what's most important. So it's the experience. And what kind of experience do you want to have? And I think that's really what determines whether you're a morning photographer or an evening photographer. So for me, it's all about the experience. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end the video, but hey, I hope you liked the video. And if you did, hit that little like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And drop me a comment. Let me know what you thought. And as always, if I don't see you down the road, maybe I'll see you on the trail.